Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Miss Camay Show. I'm your host, Miss Camay, and I am broadcasting live from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. And I have the pleasure today of reaching out to Sonoma County, California, and interviewing a wonderful, wonderful co-author of the anthology Stand Up, Speak Out, with me, Ms. Lorraine Segal. Welcome to the show, Lorraine.
Oh, thank you so much, Camay. It's truly a pleasure to be here.
Well, this is not our first, webinar, our first virtual conference together. We've done this a few times over the last few years, and I want to introduce you to our guests and let people know who you are. You're a conflict management and communication consultant, coach, and trainer. Like, who doesn't need conflict management in their life, right?
That's right. You got it.
Your business is Conflict Remedy, and you work with corporations and nonprofits, as well as governmental entities and individuals to promote harmonious and productive workplaces. So, such an amazing platform and amazing passion. I know that you're very passionate about what you do and you're in love with what you do. And I want to share with our audience that you and I met as co-authors in the anthology Stand Up, Speak Out Against Workplace Bullying. This is 23 real-life testimonies of survival and victory through some sort of bullying in the workplace. And your chapter is chapter 10. I have the book right here. And for those of you who don't know anything about an anthology is a book. It is compiled by a person or persons. In this case, this anthology was compiled by myself and Catherine Mattice and Sue Yang with the National Workplace Bullying Coalition. And there are contributing authors in an anthology. So each author contributes a chapter or their story, if you will, in the actual book, in the anthology. So I was a contributing author, and so was Lorraine. And so we worked on this project together, and that's how we initially met. We both share a testimony about workplace bullying. And without giving away the juice of your chapter, Lorraine, something that really moved me when I was reading your chapter, because I've actually read the whole book and I've read everyone's testimony, you gave 5 pieces of advice in your chapter, kind of in closing. And I want to read those for our interview, and I want you to elaborate on these tips. So the 5 pieces of advice that you gave to people who have been bullied in the workplace, or who are being bullied in the workplace, or who are experiencing any kind of conflict, essentially, in the workplace. The first tip is name what is happening and understand that you are not responsible for the campaign against you. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, find other sources of spiritual strength and validation. Such a great tip, such a great tip. Tip number 3, seek support at work and outside of work. Great, great tip again. Number 3. Tip number 4, look at what you can change inside yourself and in your situation. And tip number 5, the last tip, if you can't improve things, get out. So talk to me a little bit about those 5 pieces of advice that you share in your chapter in this anthology, Lorraine. Let's start there.
Sure. Well, knowing what's happening to you is one of the really powerful things that people are advised to do when you're bullied. I actually didn't have a name for what was happening to me until I was working on putting my first class together for Sonoma State while I was still working full-time at the College of Darkness, as I call it. And when I read an article about mobbing, which is bullying by a group, I sat and cried for an hour. And it was so powerful to know that I wasn't alone, that there was a name for it, that it wasn't just about a flaw or fault in me that made them go after me.
Yeah, great point to mention that, because I think that a lot of people who are bullied, who are targets of workplace bullying or workplace mobbing, you know, it initially starts with, okay, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? what mistake did I made? What's wrong with me? And a lot of times it's not that at all. It's, that you are the all-encompassing, the most senior employee, the most knowledgeable employee, the most talented, person in your craft, which makes you a target. So you're not necessarily doing you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. You're doing everything right. And that potentially makes you a target. So great point with that. At Sonoma State University, you are the curriculum designer and lead teacher for the Conflict Management Professional Development Certificate Program. So talk to us about that certificate program at Sonoma State.
Sure. Well, I had taught in the previous incarnation of the program, which was very different. And so I was invited to create a new conflict management program and to run it and be the lead teacher and get guest teachers in. And so I had the incredible gift of getting to design a program the way I thought it needed to be. So I got to put in all the topics I thought were important. And I actually do not know of another program in the country that includes all the things I did in a foundation class for managing conflict. So there's a week on, Conflict 101, kind of what's conflict, who are we in conflict. There's a week on difficult conversations, and one on giving and receiving feedback, one on mediation, one on facilitating meetings. But there's also a week on bullying and what it is and how you can tell the difference from conflict. There's a week on letting go of grudges and resentments, because my experience is that people don't resolve conflicts if they're holding on to that kind of grudges.
Right.
And so it's an amazing program, actually, and the students are amazing too. And we're actually next fall, for all you folks in Las Vegas area and other places, we're taking it online. So it won't just be local people who can do it. Anybody who can stay up Pacific time until 9:30 can come and take it next September.
Nice. That's wonderful. I mean, we love technology and the innovation of it, right? That allows us to do like what we're doing today, having an interview. We're in two completely different cities and two completely different states. And be able to build these platforms to really showcase and highlight who we are as entrepreneurs and business professionals and business women, around the country. It's so great. And even internationally, right? I mean, anywhere there's internet service and somebody can jump on and click on a link, they can potentially, join us. So nationwide, I just love what technology is doing for us these days. You mentioned early in our interview.
Absolutely.
I mentioned early in our interview when I introduced you that you are out in Sonoma County where all the fires are right now. And so what's going on out there? Can you tell us a little bit about, are you safe? Where is your home in conjunction to it?
Yeah, I live in Santa Rosa, and I happen to be in this small triangle in Santa Rosa that did not lose power and was not forced to evacuate. It's just been really tense for us. We're very near the fire command central, and I think that's why we didn't lose power. But half the people I know have been evacuated. The other half mostly don't have power, and it's very tense. The hardest thing was I was driving down from Larkfield, which is just a little bit north, which was completely evacuated shortly thereafter. And there were construction workers working on a multi-building housing unit. And I knew that they were going to have to stop momentarily and be evacuated, and that their work might be destroyed again. And it just brought tears to my eyes. But the firefighters are being heroic at trying to save the neighborhoods, because they know people will lose hope if their houses are destroyed again. So far so good. The air quality is bad. We're wearing masks outside and have our air purifier running, but everybody I know so far is safe. It's just quite stressful to be displaced and have things closed and no electricity.
Sure. Well, I'm so glad that you guys are safe. You and your wife are safe, and we will definitely keep the whole state of California in our prayers, as we watch, intensely across the nation. The whole nation is praying for you guys out there.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So switching gears. So talk to me about, why you're doing the things that you're doing. Going and getting a job would be easy, right? I don't know. I guess you and I have different opinions about that. Different opinions from everyone else. But why this? Why conflict management? Why have you decided to get into the trenches of entrepreneurship and really pursue this platform in your life and potentially for other people? Why? Tell us why.
Okay, well, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, actually. I never wanted to have my own business. But especially coming out of all the mobbing and horrible experiences I had, and I knew that there had to be a better way to resolve conflict, and I went back to school to learn while I was still full-time at my horrible place. And I quickly realized that nobody was hiring someone to do what I wanted to do. And that if I wanted to do it, I had to learn how to be a business owner. And believe me, it's been an extremely steep learning curve. And I did so much to learn all the basics of having a business and the finances and the technology and the marketing. And my experience with marketing is some of the basics helped me. And basically, I had to give it all to the goddess. And she's the one who brings me clients. And I just do footwork. And my business is expanding as word of mouth, people get to know me. And someone from a credit union in a different community found me from my website, which is supposed to happen and almost never does. And I'm doing multiple projects for them. So it was particularly challenging to decide to do the program at Sonoma State because they do not pay well at all. And I almost inside myself wanted to say no because I'm worth a lot more money. But then when I thought about it, I thought I would be heartbroken if someone else did it, and I didn't, because I have so much love for it. And it has been the biggest source of joy to share this information with my students, to get to design it and then implement it and have people like it and have it even work online. And so I am so grateful and happy that I get to do this work. And I had a new, I talked to a new client the other day. She's one of the people at the credit union an executive who now wants coaching with me. And I talked to her, and I'm just so happy and cheerful about dealing with conflict. And I'm saying it's so cool. And she was happy to talk to me. But I realized that some people get so serious about this. And for me, a lot of it is just pure joy to help people, to see the light bulb go off, to help them change and transform how they think about conflict, how they communicate with others. And it's about loving themselves too and being compassionate towards others. That's all part of what I do, and I have so much fun.
So where did this come from? Being mobbed in the workplace, being bullied in the workplace, it's trauma, it's traumatic.
Yes.
It's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's devastating. And sometimes that can be deadly to people. And so how did you take something, so horrible and turn it into what it is today?
Yes. Well, it's, my whole path towards this field with conflict management, it's actually two paths that came together. One is that I've been a facilitator of difficult meetings since I was in my 20s. I had some training then through a radical feminist group I was in, and I've been doing that ever since. And I've been a teacher almost my entire adult life, which is managing groups of people, talking to my students about it being okay to make mistakes. There was a whole path of that. Plus, I'm in several 12-step programs of recovery, which is a spiritual path of looking at my own mistakes and character defects and forgiving myself and other people. So that was all part of what I bring, plus studying intercultural communication and racism. So that's part of what I bring that has made me who I am in the field. And then I was a tenured professor at a community college and had a lot of leadership opportunities, but I was also mobbed, not only for the things you said about being super competent and good what I did, but because I spoke up for my students who were poor immigrants. I spoke up for people of color at the college who were being discriminated against, and tried to bring diversity training and unlearning racism there. And I myself, I'm a Jewish lesbian, which was I think I was the only one there. And there was a lot of prejudice against women, against Jews, against lesbians. And it was awful. You know, it was repeated waves of mobbing where they would truly try to destroy me personally and professionally. And I think if I hadn't had my spiritual foundation, it would have destroyed me. And if I had the detachment and awareness I have now, I think I would have gotten out sooner or fought back differently.
Sure.
Yeah. But one of the things, the reason I do the week in my class, and I do this with my clients on letting go of grudges and resentments, is that I would not have survived. My spirit would not have survived at the college if I hadn't worked to forgive them. And it wasn't about what they did being okay, or that I approved of it or accepted it. Right. It was about releasing that bitterness and resentment so my heart could be peaceful.
Yeah. They say, you know, forgiveness does nothing for them, but everything for you. And that is absolutely so true. When I really understood the power in that statement, man, I was quick to forgive people.
Yes, it makes it much easier. It makes it much easier when it's enlightened self-interest, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sorry.
It really is the beginning of the healing and restoration process when you forgive. That is ultimately when it happens. Would you agree?
I think that's part of it. I also had to do a lot of work on PTSD, you know, specific focused work on that. And when I first got into this field, you know, I wrote about being bullied and mobbed as part of I have a blog at my conflict remedy website. And so people would find me, and I would always do my best to help them if people found me who were being bullied, but I did not seek them out because it would trigger me every time. And I would start shaking, thinking of my own experience. And as I've done more and more healing myself, it's gotten easier and easier to help people without it impacting me.
Oh, that is very interesting. I never considered that. I don't think that I've necessarily had that experience. I can identify, you know, when I've consulted with clients who are being bullied in the workplace, you know, I can feel kind of the anxiety or like the excitement, or, you know, like I get a little warm, you know, maybe a little, you know, just a little anxious because there's a relation there. I can relate to that, but it could potentially be PTSD, you know, like it totally makes sense. It's a trigger, right? It's a trigger. That's what happenens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, as you mentioned in your intro, I've recently completed a memoir. It's 9,700 words. That's over 300 pages about my whole life. And some of what I realized was how nothing was lost, nothing was wasted, nothing was a mistake, and saw very clearly what I got from that horrible time at the college. But also, I really dreaded and postponed writing about my experiences there. And actually writing the memoir was the first time I sat down and wrote down every despicable, horrible, shaming thing that happened to me. And I shook and cried through the whole thing. There were virtual tears over my keyboard at every page. Yeah. And then by the time I wrote the fourth draft, I had done a whole other layer of healing and wasn't getting triggered by the writing, and was able to cut it down half from 40 pages to 20 pages and just ask, what do I need to share to show the transformation?
Right. And a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, I guess, who, you know, have their hands in so many different things, when they actually become an author, when they actually sit down and write, they experience those types of things because writing is so therapeutic. When you're, you know, creatively writing and you're actually going back and thinking about what it is that you're writing about, it does invoke those feelings. It does invoke those emotions. And
Mhm.
so I would say to anybody who's, who has an amazing testimony, who has an amazing story, if you are not a published author yet, and you have something that will definitely impact the world, really consider becoming a published author. There are many opportunities. There are self-publishing opportunities. There are anthology opportunities where you can, share in a story. You don't necessarily have to write 97 pages of content about your life, but you can share a very, very powerful story with writing.
Yeah.
So anybody that is interested in learning anything about becoming a published author, feel free to reach out to Lorraine or myself. We can definitely help you and point you in the right direction with publishing questions, or and share our experience with you as published authors and writers. So I want to highlight something here. I want to go back to that memoir. I definitely want to talk about that. But I want to, let's see, I read in your bio, didn't you receive like an honor, or let's see, you talked about your blog and addressing bullying issues for the past 10 years. Oh, here it is. You were named one of the top 30 conflict resolution experts to follow on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a huge professional platform. I've been using it for years, but I've used it really as my virtual resume. Instead of, that Word document that has all of my boring work experience listed on it. So tell us about that. How were you named the top 30 conflict resolution expert on LinkedIn? I want to know.
Well, I have to say, I still have no idea. I asked them, I said, how did you pick me? Or, how did you, I guess I didn't know them, or they just said, we thought you were cool or something like that, But I think what I do on LinkedIn that I think allowed them to see it is that when I write my blog posts, I post them on my website. I also send them out in a newsletter to the people who are on my list. And I also post them as articles on LinkedIn, so that they were able to see a body of my writing and see that a lot of people follow me and like what I write. And I do write a lot of articles about communication and conflict and bullying and forgiveness. And they have funny titles too, a lot of them. So, so maybe that helped.
I have subscribed to your newsletter, and so I do get your blog articles that you write. Where can people subscribe to your blog?
If you go to my conflictremedy.com website and just scroll down the front page, there's a place to sign up, and I send a free article on the high cost of conflict at work, which is a great one to show to CEOs and managers if you want to get someone else to pay for your training in conflict management.
Yeah, ultimately. Yeah, I love getting your emails. I love reading your articles. Yeah, they're so intuitive. I often share them on my platforms because they're such a great source of information. On the topic of communication, we're not just talking about conflict resolution. We're not just talking about bullying or mobbing. The information that you share is very informative. It is very educational, and it can be shared across many different platforms. So for those of you who want to subscribe to Lorraine's blog, go to conflictremedy.com, scroll down, sign up for her newsletter. I really encourage you guys to do that. So let's go back. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I always love to hear from people too.
Yes. Share your feedback for sure. A topic maybe that you might want to hear from Lorraine about, or have Lorraine elaborate on. Yeah, definitely send the feedback to her. So in closing, we've got just a few minutes left. So I want to know about this memoir. I've heard, some wonderful things about it. We've talked several times in preparation for our interview today. And I know, some personal things about you in your past. So let's talk to our audience about this memoir. Like, give it to us raw. I want to hear it all.
Okay, thank you for asking. So the memoir is called Angels and Earthworms, An Unexpected Journey to Joy, Love, and Miracles. And it's partly a story of, kind of accidentally but actively. I was part of the radical feminist movement, the Berkeley Peace movement, the Whole Foods movement, the New Age movement, and the AIDS crisis, because I was involved with people and active in groups that were working on those. And so one person said I was sort of like Forrest Gump, only prettier, of being present at a lot of important events. And but it's told through the filter of this, being a funny misfit Jewish girl growing up in a conservative Christian Southern California community, and making my way to Berkeley and having all these experiences and coming out as a lesbian and finding true love and being able to marry my wife eventually. That was another cause, gay marriage rights.
Yeah.
And and a lot of it is, I was part of these movements, and I also thought aspects of them were pretty funny and silly. And so I talk about both, like, there's a section about being a lesbian ballroom dancer.
Okay,
one of the sections is called The Terror of Cross-Dressing at Alibaba's Ballroom. It's all true stories about funny things that happened to me, and just the seriousness of that. Well, there's one section called "While You're Munching Your Organic Raisins, Don't Forget to Smash the State." And then the section about being bullied is called College of Darkness. And then there's a whole section about meeting the goddess, and some amazing, I learned how to, everybody can, it doesn't make, I channeled the goddess. So I've got all these beautiful dialogues I've had with her and things she said to me, some funny, some just amazingly loving. And so that's in there too.
And so right now you've got this memoir written.
Yes, several times.
And so it's in a final stage. And so what are you looking for this memoir right now? I'm
looking for an agent who falls in love with my book and wants to represent me, or a small publisher who wants to publish the book. And so I pitched at a writing conference. I've been querying people, and had a little bit of interest, but nothing's come through. And so, boy, am I open if anybody has someone who might be interested in getting my memoir and taking a look.
Let's contact me. Yes, let's make it happen with this Miss Camay Show interview, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to say that whatever happens with the publication, except for the section about the college, writing it was a total joy. I had so much fun. And that since I left the college, that's what I wanted. I mean, not that you can have fun every minute, and I have a different idea of fun than a lot of people, but I've just had so much joy in writing the memoir, in the work that I do. And I am grateful, and I never take that for granted, and I never, ever want to go back to how I felt at that college.
Sure, of course. So in saying all of that, if we have anybody who is a publisher who's in the book writing or book publishing business, and you are looking for the next greatest memoir of an amazing, amazing testimony of our history of our country, the culture of our country, you should at least give this some consideration. So how can people contact you, Lorraine, if they are interested in looking at your memoir, if they want to consult with you, if they need some kind of conflict management, consulting? Tell people how they can get in touch with you and contact you.
Yeah, well, you can contact me through the website. There's a contact tab, and that's https://conflictremedy.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Lorraine Segal. And should I give email or not give email?
It's up to you. My address is publicly all over the internet.
So the best way is through my website. I will get back to you right away, or LinkedIn. Yeah, it's Lorraine Segal.
Perfect. Okay, perfect.
I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have opportunities. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you today, Lorraine, and
Oh,
being able to showcase you on my platform here on the Miss Camay Show. We've done, several things together. We've been in panels together. I think what you're doing in the world is delightful. It is definitely needed. We need women like you who are bold and courageous and not afraid, yes, not afraid to stand up and speak out about real life testimony and offer people tools and resources on how they can cope and manage and deal with, similar circumstances that they experience. So please do not stop doing what you're doing. Please continue to touch our youth. That's so important. That our youth, the young adults that are coming behind us, that they are equipped with tools and resources from beautiful goddesses full of wisdom as yourself. I thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I so appreciate you tuning in to the Miss Camay Show. Next week, same day, same time, Wednesday, 2 p.m. We've got an amazing, amazing author from Canada who will be joining us live on the Miss Camay Show, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Love you guys so much. Thank you, Lorraine, for joining me. I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye, everybody.